Hello and welcome back to Alex FPL. Today's video is a summary of the key information going into Game Week 1. We'll be covering preseason form, injuries, expert picks, final thoughts, and more. This video required loads of research, so if you do find it useful, please consider liking and subscribing. Starting with preseason form, this is a table showing all of the highest scorers over the preseason period. Feel free to take a screenshot of this and look at it later, but essentially what we're looking at here is incredible stats for Mateta and Watkins in particular, both of them involved in 7 goals in preseason. Then we've also got Harry Wilson. Not many managers looking at him, but his stats were really good over the preseason. Other considerations for players like Fernandez, who we know is a great FPL asset. He was involved in 5 goals in preseason. Marlon as well from Aston Villa. He could be a very interesting option. So he was involved in 5 goals as well in preseason. Marlon only costs 5.5 million, and with Rodgers out for a while, we might start looking at him as a possible option. 2 other players that stand out on this list are Gakpo and Bowen. 5 and 4 goal involvements respectively. 19% of managers have gone with Bowen, so he's clearly already on your radars. However, Gakpo's only been selected by 6% of FPL managers and could be a really interesting pick. Other players to look out for on this list include Wirtz with 4 goal involvements, Sarr from Crystal Palace with 4 goal involvements as well, and potentially even Evan Nilsson with 3 goal involvements. Now moving on to the injury news, starting with Solanke. So Solanke played his first game in preseason versus PSG yesterday. I still don't know if it's worth taking a punt on a player who's only just started playing for his team. Now moving on to Maddison, who is facing surgery, so he'll be out for a while. Could potentially mean that Porro is now on corners from the right, and it also potentially means more minutes for Kudus. Gabriel featured for the first time in the whole of preseason in Arsenal's last game on the 9th of August, but he did come off after 60 minutes. So as much as I love Gabriel as a pick, and I probably will pivot to him at some point this season, I'm just not sure I'm going to go there from Game Week 1. Also because Arsenal's opening fixtures are really bad. From Game Week 7, we may consider him. Then we have Colwill, who unfortunately is set to miss most of the season with a significant injury. The impact on Chelsea's defence is to be seen yet, but it might potentially even want to sway you off Sanchez if that's a factor for you. Then we have Nketiah. It looks as though he's going to be out for at least 5 more weeks. The impact on Mateta not having any backup in the Conference League could be significant. So for this part of the video, I've summarized all of the data from FPL Focal's channel. He does an amazing series on FPL experts. All of the managers that submit data for this are elite managers, ranging from top 10k all the way to FPL winners. So what we're looking at here is the data from those draft teams that were submitted. Of course, these are just drafts, so some of these numbers might change, but it gives us a good snapshot of what those managers are thinking going into Game Week 1. So let's go through it quickly. Starting with the goalkeepers, we're seeing Dubravka as the most owned goalkeepers amongst the elite managers. That's due to the fact that he's only 4 million and he's a starting goalkeeper for Burnley. Then we have Sanchez, which 55% of managers are going for. I think we can all agree Sanchez has been slightly underpriced for this season. So for 5 million, you can get a starting goalkeeper playing for Chelsea. And Chelsea really did have a really good end to the last season in terms of their defensive stats. Also worth pointing out, Sells, who 17% of managers have gone for. I love Sells as a pick, were it not for the fact that the Nottingham Forest defenders are incredibly good for DEFCON points, and some of them even for goal contributions. So most of us will be going for Forest defenders. If you want to double up though, a Forest defender plus Sells could be a great option. Next, we have the defenders, and I'm loving the fact that Esteve is so high up on the list. We've also got Williams, who has been in my draft up until very recently. Virgil, who many people are picking. Maria, who had amazing DEFCON stats last season. He's probably the best for DEFCON in that backline for Forest. Porro, who's becoming increasingly interesting for me personally. Tarkovsky, who has not left my team since the first draft, who is also amazing for DEFCON. Then we're seeing some budget enablers like Van de Ven, Youth, Konza, Anderson. These are all great picks if you're looking for a 4.5 million defender. I'm actually quite surprised to see Milenkovic so low on the list at 13%. For me, he's the best goal threat in that backline for Forest, and he's got really good DEFCON points, so I'm actually swaying towards him. Next, we have the midfielders. We start with Palmer at a whopping 93% of selection. I'm not actually surprised, to be honest. Palmer was probably one of my first players on my draft as well. Salah at 83%. Many of us are backing him over Haaland. Then we have Anderson at 51%. So he's the 5.5 Nottingham Forest enabler. He's a defensive midfielder, so don't expect any attacking contributions from him, but he is amazing for DEFCON. Then we're seeing almost half of managers go for Wirtz and almost half go for Bruno Fernandes. I don't think many of us can fit both in the team, so many of us are debating whether to go for one or the other. With Wirtz being the new exciting pick and Bruno Fernandes being the established FPL player that we know he is. Then we have Reinders at Man City. He costs 5.5 million and has been selected by 27% of expert managers. I'm not actually surprised by this pick. I'm very, very tempted to go there. I don't really have any other City assets on my team, and I do want to back someone from them. And at such a low price point, he could be worth a punt. Then we have Ndiaye at Everton and Sarr at Crystal Palace. Ndiaye is definitely a lock in my team. Sarr, I'm probably going to wait until their fixtures ring. Now moving on to the forwards with Watkins, our first pick at 83% selection. He's third behind Palmer and Dubravka. He's a very popular pick and for good reason. We already know Watkins is a great FPL asset, but his preseason form has made him an even better pick. Then we have Gu, who I also covered in yesterday's video. I think the reason why so many managers are going for him is that he's 4.5 and most of us are needing a 4.5 striker on our bench, and potentially Gu might actually play at some point. Now we also see João Pedro owned by 39% of expert managers. I'm delighted with this because I'm betting against him. So my team is pretty template as it stands, but going against João Pedro is the key differentiator for my team currently. It's always interesting watching these kinds of videos where you get to see what the experts are picking, because sometimes you'll have made a pick that you think no one else has thought of, and then you come and see this and you see Strand Larsen at 25%. I honestly thought no one was going to go there because of his really, really bad opening fixture against City, but clearly people see the long-term value in him, as do I. The only other forward I'll talk about from this list is Haaland, owned by 11% of managers. So clearly even the best FPL managers in the world, some of them are actually backing Haaland, so that's a very good option if you still want to do that. Next, I wanted to do a bit of a special focus on Crystal Palace because of the news that came out the other day. So as I alluded to in some previous videos, we needed to find out whether Crystal Palace or Nottingham Forest would be playing in the Conference League this year. Well, the final decision was made official on the 11th of August, and that decision was that Nottingham Forest will take Crystal Palace's place in the Europa League. This means Palace will have to play qualifiers in the midweek before Game Week 2 and Game Week 3. So let's put this all together. What does this mean if you were to pick a player from Palace? So they would have to play in Game Week 1 against Chelsea, followed by a midweek's fixture in the qualifiers, followed by Game Week 2 against Nottingham Forest, followed by another qualifier in midweek, and then finally Game Week 3 against Aston Villa. I'm not completely put off Crystal Palace assets, but it is a big consideration. Finally, some news on the transfer window. We have confirmation that Grealish signed for Everton. So what does this mean for Grealish? Is he an asset we can select in FPL? Very probably. I personally won't be going there from Game Week 1, but let's keep an eye on him. Also, something else that came to my attention. Everton were only awarded 2 to 3 penalties over the last few years. So will Jack change that? Does that make Ndiaye a better pick? Potentially. Well, that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. The next video will be uploaded on deadline day, and it's my team selection video and final thoughts. If you found this content useful, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.